Hey everybody, it's Rod with the Photo Fair coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm going to talk about a lens. It's been out for a couple of years. I bought it at the Photo Fair a couple of years ago, used, if I got a really good deal on it. And I'm kind of intrigued with it. Now, this is a lens that's made by Canon for Canon RF camera bodies. So I try to talk about things here that are sort of usable on all kinds of camera systems. But today I really want to touch on this lens because I think it's something I'd like to see Sony and Nikon come out with because I think it's a clever idea. So that's why I'm wearing the EOS shirt today because we're going to talk about a Canon EOS lens. So let's get right into it. Okay, so what Canon EOS lens am I talking about? It's this big old honker right here, the Canon 800mm f11. Now, they did come out with a 600 f11. I'm not as excited about that one because I think f11 is too slow for 600mm. But I figure once you get out to 800, you're getting into a territory where there's not a whole lot of consumer lenses at 800mm. Most of the lenses at 800 are professional grade lenses, and they're over $10,000. I think Canon's got an 800 5.6 that's $20,000. So most of us can't afford to spend that kind of money to get this kind of reach. And typically, if you put a teleconverter on, say, a 400mm f5.6, well, guess what? At 2x, you get an 800 f11, and you're probably not getting as good a picture because teleconverters do tend to rob you of a little bit of resolution. Even the good ones made by Nikon, Sony, and Canon. So I think there's a place for this in a amateur camera bag. And I think Canon was real bold to come out with it. A lot of people teased them, f11. But at 800, I really think it suits. So let's take a look at it. This is the shooting position here, fully extended. Okay, when you carry the lens in your bag, you get to smush it up like that. They've just got this little ring right there for that. So that's kind of nice. It compacts it up. It doesn't come with the shade. I had to buy that extra. Canon typically does that unless you buy the L series lens. You don't get the free shade. So I had to buy that. And you can get the Canon shade for $40 or $50, but you can also buy knockoff import models as well for half that. So, and a shade is, honestly, a shade's a shade. Doesn't matter, but you do want a lens shade. So Canon is using their diffractive optics with this. This lens weighs about the same as the old 70 to 200 2.8. It's obviously a little bit longer, but it's not heavy. It features image stabilization. Let's get right here. It's the simple on-off. You don't have the stage 1, stage 2 with this lens, and you can turn the autofocus on and off. It has a nice, big, well-damped manual focus ring. And it has the control ring, which you could customize with RF lenses. So it's kind of nice there. It also has a focus limiter, which is kind of a joke because one of my sort of pet peeves with this lens is the minimum focus distance is almost 20 feet. I mean, I know it's an 800, but if you're shooting a small bird like a hummingbird, yeah, you're going to have to crop in because you're so far away. It'd be really nice if Canon would do maybe a software update, firmware update, and let this thing focus a little closer. But for whatever reason, it's 20 feet. That's kind of a bummer. And the other little bummer about the lens, before I show some photos I've made with it, is it doesn't utilize the full frame for focusing. So all of the focus points for this particular lens are stuck in the middle of the lens. It's about, I'd say, a third of the frame, maybe as much as 40% of the frame, but it's definitely less than half the frame. And so you can't really focus on things that are way out here on the edge of the frame. You'll have to keep your subject sort of centered in the frame in order for the autofocus to work. So that's a little bit of a bummer. And I don't know. Sometimes Canon nerfs products. They're noted for doing this. It's one of the things I've been with Canon since 1979. I never liked that they nerf some of their stuff. I'm not saying they nerfed this lens, but I think they nerfed it. But optically, the lens is sharp. It's not the sharpest lens I own, but it's pretty darn sharp. It's super lightweight for what it is. The stabilizer works fantastic, and it works in conjunction with the IBIS in my body. So, I mean, for what, they're $900, I think, is what they get for this lens. $900. Take a look at these pictures. It makes good pictures. Take a look. I know, right? It's a decent lens. Getting 800 millimeters in a prime lens at a price under $1,000, significantly under $1,000 because they lowered it to $899, is pretty neat. And you don't have to use teleconverters. Odd thing is, Canon will let you put the 1.4x and the 2x RF extenders on this lens, and they do work, and it will autofocus. How weird is that? Now, I could understand the little box in the middle when using the tele extenders, but if this lens is able to focus at f/22, then I think it could focus using the full frame of the viewfinder at f/11. So I'm, like I said, nerf. I think they nerfed it. Come on, Canon, new firmware, unnerf it. You know you want to. Okay. Anyway, Canon recently came out with another lens, a 200 to 800. It'd be a great alternative for someone who wants a zoom. It's a 200 to 800. It's f/6.3 at 200. And then as you zoom towards 800, it slows down to f/9 at 800. Now, f/9 is about 2/3 of a stop quicker than this 800 f/11. Now, that lens is about double the price of this lens. I think they got the list price at $17.99, I think, on that one. It is a white colored lens, but it's not an L lens. The images that I have seen from other photographers that have reviewed that new lens are amazing. I'd say a little bit nicer than this 800 f/11, but it's twice the price. But that does allow you to have a zoom. Canon's really all in on making these lenses a little bit slower. They've always been about fast glass over at Canon. You know, early adopter of an 85 1.2, you know, back in the 70s, a 300 2.8 back in the 70s, a 400 2.8. They were the world's first on that. They've always been fast glass, and they still are. But now they're recognizing, hey, in this digital world, where we can shoot at 3200, 6400 ISO and get good results, why not come out with a really sharp, high quality lens with a slower f-stop so that regular human beings can afford them? And that's kind of what they're doing with these new lenses, where you see these kind of odd f/7.1, f/6.3, f/9, f/11, and they're doing this to give you a quality option rather than a cheap 800 millimeter f/8 that would be soft and render crappy images. They said, no, we're going to give you a sharp lens, and you can just bump your ISO up one stop, and there you go. It's usable. I got that hummingbird photo that I took out there. That was on a dark, snowy day, it was, it's wintertime here in the Pacific Northwest. It's dark. And I was, at 6400, I had a 400th or 500th of a second shutter speed with the stabilization in the lens, more than enough to freeze the action. When I was shooting the hummingbird, I was shooting at the fastest setting, the 12 frame per second mechanical. And I nailed focus on, I'd say 70 or 80% of the images. There were a couple where it missed the focus, shooting at that speed. And the hummingbird was moving around and twitching its head and stuff. But it locked onto the eye, and it did a great job. 70, 80% of photos were sharp and focused where I wanted them to be focused. So I'm real happy with the lens. And hopefully Sony and Nikon will introduce some products for their users that are similar, so that everyone can have a chance to have like an 800 millimeter lens, at a price that's within reach of typical photographers. So that's really all I got on that lens. Don't forget, guys, Photo Fair, March 24th, about 6-8 weeks out on that. It's going to be at the Newark Pavilion. Last March, our show was packed. We had tons of vendors, thousands and thousands and thousands of cameras and lenses and photo gear, and we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people come through the door. It was a great show. Looking forward to having another great show at the Newark Pavilion on the 24th of March. Hope to see you there. In the meantime, we'll see you right here on YouTube.